Salam everyone and welcome back to the Muslim Girl Diaries. Today I want to ask a question many families avoid. Are Muslim parents allowed to favor sons over daughters? And more importantly, does God accept that? Because culture has answered this question loudly, tradition has answered it confidently, but Revelation answers it very differently. Okay, so let's start with something uncomfortable, but really honest. Now, in many Muslim households, sons are given permission and daughters are given expectations. Sons are allowed to make mistakes while daughters are told to be careful. Sons are also given freedom, and that's called learning, but daughters are given restrictions and called protection. Now, protection can be in a positive format, but it can also be something that's negative. Sons are forgiven quickly. Daughters, whatever they do, is remembered longer. And this imbalance is often justified with religion, even when religion never taught it. The Holy Quran tells us that God created human beings from a single soul, not two hierarchies. Not one is superior and the other secondary. It's one soul, male, female, equal in dignity, equal in moral weight. So when a parent consistently favors a son emotionally, financially, or socially, then we need to ask, is that Islam? Or is that culture wearing religious language? There's a deep teaching passed down to us that says injustice within the home is still injustice, even if the outside world never sees it. God does not overlook oppression just because it happens privately. Favoritism is not a small thing. It's so damaging to families. Because the favoritism doesn't just hurt the child who's overlooked, it corrupts the one who is favored. The daughter grows up questioning her worth, and then the son grows up assuming entitlement. And that entitlement isn't just confined to the home. That entitlement, he takes it with him for the rest of his life. And the families think that entitlement is doing the son, or in some cases, daughters, any favors. It actually isn't. It's destroying the favorite child and leading them to eventually live a life that's just unbearable, especially when the parents are not going to be around. No one can handle a person with traits of entitlement, which leads to failed relationships, either with friends or in marriages. And it could even happen with their own kids. So, therefore, neither outcome becomes righteous. Now, let me paint a picture probably many people will recognize. A daughter grows up being told she's too emotional. She's expected to help, to serve, to stay quiet, and to continuously sacrifice. Her achievements are minimized, her struggles are always compared. And then, meanwhile, on the other side of the spectrum, her brother is told he's a boy. That's how boys are. So, in this case, then, his anger is excused, his absence is justified, and his mistakes are softened. So then, years later, the parents start asking, why is our daughter so distant? Why does she struggle with confidence? Why is our son irresponsible? And then the answer becomes very painful to parents, especially those who thought that they were always right in doing everything for their children. And that's because fairness was never practiced. And if families want to pick sides with whom to be fair, then in many cases, those homes aren't safe enough emotionally for the lesser ended sibling. They end up growing colder and colder, which eventually leads them to breaking with family ties. One of the greatest moral teachings in Islam is that justice begins at home, not in courts, not in politics. It starts in families. A parent who gives unequal love without any reason, unequal attention without wisdom, unequal patience without reflection, just cannot call that God pleasing. So there's a teaching that says God is gentle with daughters because they are often burdened silently, not weaker, but just forced to carry more. And when a parent sides with a son simply because he is a son, they are not honoring masculinity. They're distorting it. You see, true strength was never about privilege, it was about responsibility. And true honor for daughters was never about control, it was actually about dignity. Please hear this. Islam never taught us to raise princes and servants under the same roof. It taught us to raise humans with equal moral values. And let me be very clear here. This does not mean sons and daughters are identical because they are not. But then differences does not mean favoritism. Difference requires wisdom. Favoritism, on the other hand, reveals bias. One is actually rewarded by God, and then the other one is questioned. Now, parents really, really need to ask themselves honestly. So, do I correct my son the same exact way that I'm correcting my daughter? Do I excuse behavior from one that I punish in the other? Do I protect one's reputation while policing the others? Because always understand God is watching how fairness is practiced when no one else is around. And to the daughters that are listening, you have to understand that your worth was never measured by how much you endure quietly. So God does not love you more when you just disappear. And then to the sons that are listening, you have to understand that you were never created to be favored. You were created to be accountable. In the end, parents will not be asked how obedient their children were, but they will be asked how just they were. Because you also have to understand that God does not stand with sons against daughters. He stands with justice against injustice. May God purify our homes from bias, heal the wounds that favoritism creates, and teach us how to love our children the way He loves, with fairness, mercy, and truth. Thank you so much for listening.